Hi folks, let's machine a Pierson Pro-Pallet on our Tormach to show not only how can we create one from scratch, but it'll let us do custom size pallets and it'll let us reuse that hardware, which will help us reduce the costs over the life of using this fixturing system. Welcome to another Wednesday widget. Putting our piece of raw material on two mod vices, we're starting with a piece that's only 6 inches wide by 12 inches long, and the normal Pierson pallets are 8 inches. But I think that's one of the cool things about this video is we're still going to follow the Pierson print in the drawing and make sure we do this really well, but we don't necessarily have to have that full 8-inch width. Starting off with a Superfly to deck it off, let's talk about tolerances. There are a few critical tolerances on a Pierson pallet. The distance between this pad plane and this height here is very critical, 0.3 inches, and we can see that called out on the drawing. The way we programmed the part, under setup, stock, we have our stock set at 10 thousandths above the top of our part. If we zoom in, we can see we've got a small gap here, and we're zeroing off of that stock. And that cleans off the extrusion face, and it makes sure we're starting with a flat part. Extrusion is not always flat. It can commonly be warped along both axes. That also lets me establish a consistent dimension between the top of our part and this pad. Now, we've got that modeled as 10 thousandths of an inch. And if we look at the Pierson print, the pads can actually be anywhere between 5 thousandths and 20 thousandths below. So there's a lot of flexibility and options there. I don't like options. I just want to have a known value and know that anytime we set this up, regardless of who's running the machine or making the part, we're going to make a good pallet. Using a 1/2-inch twist drill to rough out some material and help us give better lead-ins for the machining we're about to do, and hopping over to the shear hog. Running it not quite at the limit, but we did want to focus on overall cycle time to make these pallets relatively quickly to save costs and keep the economics attractive. 4,000 RPMs, 12.5 thou feet per tooth, that's 50 inches per minute, 0.2-inch optimal load, and 0.2-inch depth of cut. We've become a big fan of showing the cycle time under your CAM operations. As you can see, they're listed here. Go to your name, preferences, CAM, and you can choose show operation machining time. That lets me see where's the lowest hanging fruit. If we are trying to optimize something, what takes the most time, that's where you've got the most potential to save. Coming in now to machine those pads, we're using a 1/2-inch end mill. You don't have to do this. You could use a 1/4-inch or 3/8-inch end mill. I would not recommend using the shear hog. The shear hog is a great roughing tool, but it doesn't create perfectly flat floor planes, and that is an important feature of these pads. This is also what I would consider an optional step. I did want to machine both the sides, or at least one of them. That way we've got an external reference dimension that we can use for the coordinate system of the pallet, but again, it's not necessary. Using an end mill to bore out the holes that will hold the hard turned sleeve that gives the Pierson its locating accuracy. And let's take a second to talk about what this is. So we like the Pierson pallet system. It's been a really good way to build fixtures that we can hot swap or quick change, lets us set up parts offline, but it is an investment. Now, you can buy pallets from Pierson, but it seems silly to be buying raw material for us all the way from California when we have a machine shop. So they sell the hardware kit. So this will let us machine our own. Great. Even better, they're reusable. We've even heard of shops that have a large quantity of Pierson pallets and they don't have a hardware kit for every pallet. They just move the hardware kits between pallets. We also picked up the tooling kit. This is optional if you happen to have the thread mill or the snap ring cutter details. We also purchased the tooling kit that includes the thread mill, the eclip cutter, and the tool to install them. Links in the video description to all these products. As we do our finishing passes on these critical dimensions, under passes, we have repeat passes checked. That takes the spring pass, which just helps deal with the tool deflection and give us better tolerances. Coming in with the Woodruff key seat cutter to cut the eclip grooves, 450 surface feet per minute, 1,000th of an inch feed per tooth. It's programmed with a 2D contour, and the geometry that we selected is the bottom outside edge. Finally, an edge brake chamfer around our part just to get rid of any sharp edges, as well as a very light chamfer around the bored out holes for the eclips and bushings, as well as around the Z-axis locating pads. So this is a great example where you just couldn't tap this. So thread milling it is the way to go, and you want it done reliably, and the fit was great. Before we pull the part off, though, we want to walk out the tolerances for those bores. This is one of the most critical tolerances on this pallet system because those bores hold the hard-turned bushings, and those bushings are what give us the repeating accuracy of this pallet system. Card here, by the way, to when we've had the chance to go tour Jay Pierson. He's been a really big influence on us in not only manufacturing, but entrepreneurship and lean and operational type stuff. He's a really good guy, and he makes a really nice product. We want to hit the dimension shown on this print, which is within 2/10,000ths of an inch, but we really want it between 8762 and 8764. 2/10 is really beyond the capability of not only a Tormach, but frankly, most machining centers. And so we did some testing, and two things that we observed. Number one, we had to machine these slightly oversized to the tune of about between 1/2 thou and 1,000th of an inch. I think some of that is because the circular interpolation of the Tormach is not perfect, at least when we're dealing with tenths, and so we needed it to be a slightly larger hole to deal with that lack of circularity and that let that bushing press in there. What we've also found is we still had phenomenal repeatability, and I think some of that has to do with the way that the pin is more accurate, and Jay hard turns them in one operation on his Doosan lathe. I suspect, at least what we've seen, is while we should strive to hit this tolerance, it's okay to be a smidge over. And what we also found is if you are too tight on it, you will never be able to get that bushing out. And that goes against the spirit of what we're trying to do here, which is make sure that we can reuse this hardware if we damage a pallet or if we need to replace it, or we just want to swap out the hardware to another pallet. Once we got that machine fit that we like, you'll see here the bearing will slip in, but it has no wiggle whatsoever. And then we just throw in the eclip to keep it captive and held in place. We're done. Let's test it out. Making sure that the Pierson Pro-Pallet doesn't have any chips on those 4 locating pads. That's really important. Drop it into place. We can feel for that wiggle, and when we lock it down, we can feel how stable it is, including just doing a knock test. And now let's test, is it repeatable? Grabbed our Mitutoyo tenths indicator, zeroed that out. We can pull the pallet off, put it back on, and you can see it repeats exactly back to 0. That's awesome. CAD and CAM model available over on the NYC CNC website, as well as links to the various tools and products used here. Folks, hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed. Take care. See you next Wednesday.